Hello and welcome to Module 4, What is a Tender? My name is Jo and I'm based in the Bundaberg Burnett office for the Department of State Development, Infrastructure, Local Government and Planning. In this module, we will explore the tender process, the guiding procurement documents for Queensland Government, and also what procurement teams and buyers are looking for in a tender response. Before we dive in, I just want to draw your attention to the disclaimer on your screen, which comes in 3 sections. The department cannot guarantee the currency and completeness of the information provided. The modules provide general information only. They are not specific for any industry sector or business type, and participants should seek professional advice if needed, relevant to their particular circumstances. The modules contain links to external websites, and as you progress through the modules, it will become really evident that they are provided as a resource and should be examined to determine relevance. So, what is a tender? The Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply says that a tender is a formal offer to perform work in return for payment. A tender is a process where an entity or organisation invites suppliers to provide a formal, written submission to supply goods or services. The invitation usually details scope of works, so services to be completed or types of goods to be supplied. The terms and conditions for supply, so things like payment, terms, insurances, quality requirements, and also a closing date and time. It's not pretty common to refer to the invitation and the supplier's response as the tender process. We do have a number of different ways of approaching the market for goods and services, and this section will explain those options and also some of the background to our purchasing activities. Some of the common types of invitations include approach to market, requests for proposals, invitation to offer, invitation to respond, and request for quote. So the Queensland Government supply chain opens the door to some $20 billion in spending on goods and services and capital works in a typical year. This means enormous opportunity for suppliers like you to tender, subcontract, or supply the Queensland Government. In the context of a supply chain, the Queensland Government is the customer, and our requests might be a new stretch of road, a school, hospital, or building maintenance. And it's really important that you remember what those differences are when it comes to what is purchasing and what is procurement. Procurement is the whole process. Design impacts on the local community, suppliers, and purchasing is simply, I want a spanner. I'll go and buy one, and I don't really care how much or where from. So, one of the main differences between the public sector and the private sector is that we, as Queensland Government, are policy driven in what we do. As procurement involves many more aspects than purchasing, it's not surprising that the Queensland Government has a procurement policy and strategy, along with the recently released 2032 procurement strategy. These are our guiding documents and are essential reading. So the Queensland Procurement Policy, or QPP, underwent a major overhaul in 2017 and then was further updated in June 2023. The policy provides basic principles that should be applied by officers conducting procurement activities on behalf of the Queensland Government. And this is another major difference between public and private sectors. Private sector companies aim to deliver a return for their shareholders by operating profitably within their license to operate, whilst government aims to advance specific objectives to deliver economic, environmental, and social outcomes for their constituents. So there are 6 principles of the Queensland Government procurement policy, and they are achieve value for money, Apply a responsible procurement approach, behave ethically, and embed integrity, probity, and accountability. Be leaders in procurement practice and collaborate for more effective outcomes. And finally, support strong governance and planning. So the words on this slide have been taken directly from the QPP. So the QPP states that value for money decisions must consider relevant government economic, ethical, social, and environmental objectives and targets, but limited to local benefits and best practice principles, whole of life costs, and non cost factors. So, non cost factors must, at a minimum, consider fitness for purpose, supplier capability, capacity, and experience, risk, both operational and reputational. Whole of life costs can include contract price, initial transactional costs, maintenance and support costs, ongoing payments, and operating costs. The Queensland Government has also set targets for procurement, and the following procurement targets must be pursued wherever possible. So 3% addressable spend with Aboriginal and/or Torres Strait Islander businesses, and source 30% of procurement by value from Queensland's SMEs. Most tender documents will include a preamble mentioning the objectives that are being sought, and it is recommended that when you respond to a tender, you reflect this in your wording. So, non cost factors in particular will allow businesses like yours to create positive points of difference between your offer and other offers that are being submitted. So, what is it that makes your business different? Another piece of essential reading is the All Queensland All in 2032 procurement strategy for the Olympic and Paralympic Games. This document encourages suppliers to gain experience in tendering and supplying to the Queensland Government, and now is the time for all Queensland businesses to do that. So build your business capability, gain experience tendering, and understand what is required when you are supplying to government. We do recommend that organisations develop an effective capability statement, gain that experience in supplying to government. It could be different from what you've done before, and to strengthen your business networks. So there are four main methods that are open to us when we approach the market. These are covered in detail over the next four slides, but are open offer process, so public tender, selective offer process, limited offer process, common use supply arrangements, formerly known as standing offer arrangements. So the open offer process involves sending out an invitation to offer, usually over the QTenders website. In an open offer or public process, any supplier who believes they have the capability and capacity can choose to make a response to the request. The process is both fair and transparent, but it can be time consuming and costly, both for the supplier in having to complete the tender forms and supply required information, and for government in terms of assessing all the conforming offers received against the established criteria. In the selective offer process, the offer may be made generally available, but not everyone can respond. Responses will only be sought from businesses who meet the requirements, and these might be a specific license or ability to operate, holding pre-qualification wherever that is used, and having responded to a previous open expression of interest process. A limited offer process involves agencies choosing which supplier or suppliers will be sent the opportunity to respond. Reasons to use this over the open offer process can often involve a reduced supply base, where maybe only a few local suppliers exist. They may simply be invited to respond. When it's part of a research and development project, which may involve a proof of concept phase where only those that were involved in the initial research phase are invited to respond. Or if there's a specific technical requirement that only a few companies can meet. Urgency is the usual reason, either in response to a natural disaster or because a business in the supply chain for a project has become unable to deliver and a replacement business must be sought to ensure delivery remains on schedule. So, where government agencies are frequently approaching the market for the same good or the same service, instead of running multiple open offer processes, they may instead establish a common use supply arrangement. The opportunity to become part of a panel will be advertised on Q tenders, and once in operation, details are then held on the Queensland Contracts Directory. A panel will typically operate for 2 years, with year-by-year extensions following that. Government buyers can opt to use a panel, but it's not mandatory, by sending offers using the pre-agreed terms and conditions. Being on a panel, it's not a guarantee of work, and participants and panel members still need to market their services, and there is no agreement that you will get a minimum amount of work. You have simply just agreed to the terms and conditions, but there's no requirement to use you. So this slide is designed to explain the tender process from the buyer's perspective. Once we reach stage 3, where an offer is advertised, we have already determined how to approach the market, what the project budget will be, and the value criteria and weightings. Our role at this stage is to answer any questions you may have about the specific process or specification. So ask early and ask often. Once offers are received, we will evaluate the conforming offers and conduct any negotiations. After this, we will prepare our recommendation of a preferred supplier based on the process we have used. Assuming this is accepted, we will sign a contract and move into the contract management phase. So where can you find these opportunities? The Queensland Government departments use procurement systems, including Q Tenders, Queensland Contracts Directory, QBuild eTender, and the Industry Capability Network. So if you have any questions regarding any of the modules that you've watched so far, you can contact us via the workshop at bsdilgp.qld.gov.au email address. As you can see, the department has offices throughout Queensland, and an officer from your region will be in contact with you should you require some help. So we'll now move on to Module 5, which is fine-tuning your tender response.